Yeah, should work. And now we go. Let's see. Let's see if we can. Yes! Now we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this cozy stream, cozy Christmas stream with Santa, my special guest. So,
You called me Santa. My name's Father Christmas.
Father Christmas. Yeah, but everybody calls you Santa.
Well, they do it. Well, it's near enough to Saturn, but we'll go into that later on after the art competition. Yeah, I'm going to be here to explain who the real Santa. Obviously, I'm the real Santa, but explain who I really am and regarding why we celebrate the festivities we do, when we do, and what they're all about. So I'm here to explain the true meaning of Christmas, and I hope we all learn something. So this all plays back. Get your notepad out and write this down. This this is good stuff. Yeah.
But Santa, why are you
Yeah.
English?
Because I'm Father Christmas. That's the thing. We don't know what his original English name was. We think it was something like Saturn. So again, calling me Santa's not too bad. But why would Santa Claus, yo ho ho, and all that business? Why would he be dressed like this, and why would he have an English accent? Well, we'll go into this in greater detail later on. But the dress code was standardised in 1931 because of the Coca-Cola
Coca-Cola
Company.
Company.
Yeah, try to get Santa struggles with these modern words and everything, especially this big beard. Yeah, the appearance has been standardised since 1931, but unfortunately, though, the Father Christmas from England has had to adopt the present outfit. It's a corporate thing, you see.
I mean,
I think we've got a brilliant art competition to get involved in. We're going to
indeed.
see who's naughty and who's nice in the art competition.
Indeed. So, for anyone who's joining, will be more Santa history very soon. But first, we'll be looking at art. So, last year, and now this year as well, I created an art competition for people to join and share, no, well, be creative with their type of art. And this time around, it was doing your art or art form in a different form, which is sort of like thinking outside of the box. And it worked. It worked well. I expected a few more. People did say they would send me in, and they never did. But we still have a few. For you, Rick, you can see it in the chat, stream chat. You can see them there. For the audience, I will just show the pictures immediately, like so. And I will tell you the history of them. I'm just gonna go and get that up first here with bright shininess in my
So what
face.
you're saying is Santa can see this on his phone if he needs to.
Yes, you can see it on his phone.
Right.
Right. Let's see. Yes. So collectively, I would say I got three that are actually good, and then I got two or three. No, is it two? Yeah, two that are. Yeah, we'll talk about them as well. So I mean, last time we got 11 paintings. This time we only got five. So maybe it was too complicated for some people, but it be what it be. The first one here, you can see Rick. It's the first one. There, it's all the women. It's actually from this painting right here originally. Let me write it. I'll read it here. It's called The Matriarch. It's based upon Julius Evola's ideas of traditional societies, spiritual aristocracy, and its degeneration through the adaptation of the lunar and conic spirituality, composed by a painter of Sava Sekluk, which is in part of outsider art, which is the original form. And then this man, Enrico, decided to redo it in this form. And his art is about degradation, more or less. So it's taking a more beautiful form and then little by little degrading it. And I will show you, I'll read here what he wrote to me. My work is an exercise in confrontation, By putting something like the matriarch in front of a viewer, I want to be and create a disturbance in his already established way of thinking, but not in a way that a negative confrontation is created, in which the viewer then expunges what he sees and craves a return to the status quo. So I had to see if my audio is good. Yeah, my audio should be good. No, I want to give insight into alternative forms of thinking and bend the viewer's outlook on reality ever so slightly, so that later they can invert popular ways of ideology and start thinking outside the norms. So, from pretty simple to, in his description, quite quite impressive.
A lot of complex thought processes going on for a mere picture. Was it no? The picture can say speak 1,000 words, can't it? I
Yeah,
would
I
say.
can't enlarge in the original photo. You can see his photo here. Uh, it is beautiful. The only negative thing I would say is it was created before the art, but it's actually a perfect photo in encapsulating what I wanted. Because this is exactly the thing. There is something original, redo it, and that's exactly what he did.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna share his Instagram on in the chat so everybody can check his art out. There's a lot more of this type of art in his.
Look, I presume the audience can see these pictures we're talking
Yes,
about.
yes,
Right, because Santa's having to use his iPhone. So I presume we mean the one in black and white first, the one with the women,
yes, exactly.
and then the second one. Yeah.
Yeah, the second one is uh, the inspiration.
Right. Well,
And all
really
right,
good.
yes, I would say it's very good. Uh, I'm gonna go to this one. This is the eye made by Entwife. This is just a different form of an eye. This she's like she had hard time. I'm just like creating something of a different form. She first was pointed to make a wiggling finger, but she ended up with an eye looking onto itself. So it's an eye looking onto an eye.
Hmm.
So it's trippy in that aspect. I will share the thingy
You
here
get a
as well.
shout to Santa out, by the way. Maybe, but you could read it out. What these the how to get them on social media. These good artists.
Yes, that's the Eldritch Fairy is the one who made that one. I will put that there. All right. And over to the next one. This one is not the serious one. This is uh yeah, I'm just gonna yeah, this is dog shit. This is the RA one. It's dog shit. That's it. I'm not gonna look at it more and give it any more attention. All right. So now we're going over to the brick house. Rick, yeah, if you can see the brick house, a lot of detail. This to give credit, this was drawn uh, as for the competition itself. So has a plus there on the Enrico side. Let me read out what he said when it came to his justifications for this photo. Let's see. The drawing is named Brick House, a callback to projects of interpretation form. So I took an original form and didn't change it particularly at all. I gave the form a different purpose and texture, and the inspiration is brick. But it's a massive painting. It's a massive photo. Like I don't know how I can actually show all of it in one go because it's 9,449 times 9,449. That's massive.
Is that the one with the part? Is it the one that Santa's looking at now? The park benches and something in the background, or is that a different picture?
No, it's the brick house.
The brick house. I don't think there's the.
Santa
Mm,
should have it there. Santa has it here. Let me share with Santa extra.
is it in the stream chat?
Oh yeah, yeah. It is in the stream chat. Yes, it's in the stream chat. Hold on. No, lost my cursor. There we go. Back. I'm gonna share it to Santa so Santa can get his opinion on this as well. It is. It's reply Santa. There you go. Now Santa can see it as well.
Right.
Rick is a little low. All right, I can't do much about that, Rick. You should increase yourself if you can a bit, or get closer
What
to
on the
the mic.
sound front? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at this picture. So is what? So the scale of that house then? So it's that picture of that house with like a black sun at the top and a black road near
Yes.
it.
Whoops. Yes. Oh, damn it. I accidentally. That's so annoying. I accidentally closed all the tabs. Bruh. And I lost my cursor. Ah, ain't that funny? All right, well, at least they can see us. When they can't see the
Yeah,
photos, they see us. All right, let me
that's the
let
main
me
thing.
get up the pictures again. Uh,
Looking
oops.
over, you're all pining too much about this audience. Is this is Pomen's domain on this one? So Pomen's more the artist on this front. And
Yeah,
plus, as well, Santa
yeah,
can't
but
see that you have to use his
after the
camera.
paintings are shown, it's a lot easier. So I'm gonna show. All right, I mean, you've seen the best ones, and we're gonna show the last one as well because, yeah. All right, let
I
me.
think there's more detail though you could talk about each of these pictures, like either the plus and minuses. You know, why did they achieve the rank of you one?
All right, but we'll have a vote on it in the chat a little later. But yes, but Rick, yes, Santa. But this one's the last one. This is the skull one is the original form. This is the interpretation. Yeah, good.
Still a crop of artists this time round. Yeah,
um, uh,
we're laughing though. I can't draw. Save my life. Santa's not the best drawer on this.
true. All
Best
right.
artist.
All right, but so again, not as many this time
Still
around
good.
than last time, but we're gonna have a vote, and then we're gonna go to the Santa stuff. But so I want to vote with anyone who watches between what was it? Three different paintings here. If it wants to show, yes, it does. The brick house, the eye, and the first one, which was the matriarch. So I'm gonna put in a vote. I'm gonna everybody have an extra look in it. I'm gonna post a winner on the Twitter so you can all see it a bit extra. But let me put in a vote. How do I make a vote? Interact with audience. Start a vote. All right. No, that's a question, not a vote. Start a vote. All right. So we have. I write down the matriarch, the brick house. Oh, I can't. The brick house, and then we have what was the eye. All right. Uh, so that amounts to about 50% of the votes, and then you and me, Rick, is gonna decide between ourselves who we like the most.
I like the woman picture.
The
It's
matriarch.
actually in keeping what I'm going to be going into later on. I like the first set of pictures with
Yes.
the cyclical women with the various symbols in their hand and stuff like that. That's
Yes.
actually, it's quite full enough audience. I didn't even know anything about this. This is kind of, because you remember you even said the guy who wrote it had a lot to say and stuff like that. You might
Yes.
find this lecture, this anthropology lecture we're doing now, probably in sync with that. We're going to be seeing various changes through various cycles. We're going to, I mean, I don't know, I don't know. I find the parallel interesting for what we're going to be talking about next. But yeah, I vote for that one if Santa's got a say in it.
All right. And so for me it's a toss up. Guy gets the third place to me. It's not much because the form is different. When it comes to the brick house, because it's so massive, it's very impressive. There's so much detail. So out of uh, pure scale, brick house would win. But the matriarch does have like it is created a bit before, which matters a little bit. I'll take that into consideration. But at the same time, his work is within exactly what I was asking for. And
Because again, you have to fulfill the prerequisites of the competition. You have
yeah,
to be half decent at drawing, and you have to impress Pomen. So
let's see the back door. I don't think there's much of a back door. Or is there a back door? There's a front door. There's not much of a back door. But seems that the audience so far is agreeing. 50% the matriarch. I accidentally spelled it wrong. It doesn't matter. Uh, second place brick house, and third place the eye. And I would agree on that statement, to be honest. Oh, it dipped. My internet dipped there a bit. Bruh. So yeah, I would agree.
So vox
Mr.
Dei, vox populi, the people have spoken of the people in agreement then on that one.
Mr. Enrique. I will post this thing again in the chat. Go check him out. His art is really good. Yeah, I would say that too. All right. Then we're happy with that. Let's go back to Santa.
That were only 15 minutes. Is there not more you could? Well, I don't know. I don't want to
I
spoil
mean,
the art
I
competition.
mean, I'm happy
Is
with
there more?
that.
Is there more to reflect upon before we go into this Santa
I
anthropology
can I
lecture?
can ask I can read Enrico's. He wrote another thing here. Now the camera's on us, which is nice. I don't need this
Yeah.
anymore. Wow, hairy boy. Um, so I wrote to Enrique as well. Why Evola? So it's like, says this means that my work is not pure autobiographical in nature. It don't share the same views as any artist I take inspiration from. I put to paper what is, in my opinion, noteworthy or interesting. So yeah, so I asked him about Evola, and he said my relation to Evola is one that comes from art, primarily knowing him through his connection to the Italian Futurist movement and later his Dada connections. I got into his writing after reading the Futurist Manifesto and read a fair part of the revolt against the modern world. Later Ganon's Crisis of the Modern World for an easier reading experience. Still, what stuck with me was the third chapter talking about the unmoved mover. The unmoved mover. Not really sure what that exactly entails. Guessing it's, is this thing moving? Yes. Is it moving by something else? Yes. Can the moved mover proceed to infinity? If the answer to any of those are no, it's God. Okay. So it's
You know, again, I knew I liked the picture for a good reason. This wasn't rigged, by the way. The
mm,
person didn't know the subject that Santa were going to be discussing. Yeah. So what's your opinion then? So the matriarch picture wins then, hands down then.
uh, yes. I not hands down. The brick house is very impressive, and I think Enrique, at least from a pure talent, the
Yeah.
brick house is really good. But I think the Enrique's what he wrote it fit more within the theme. it fit very well within the theme. And Rick is in the chat as well, writing. So it says the unmoved.
Merry Christmas, Enrique.
Merry Christmas. It says the unmoved mover is the wheel. The wheel motive is inherent in the drawing. Ah, so yeah, the women going around
Yeah.
is inherent to the drawing. Well,
Is it about the unmoving wheel of fate, like Boethius talked about? I presume, not being too academic for the audience. Is it that idea that the wheel's always turning and things change? So, example, like in the imagery, it showed one with the matriarchs with the cross, another one with a sword. That
unsure.
makes sense. Yeah.
Unsure.
It's because without spoiling the lecture too much, or without going into it in too much detail now,
Mhm.
this cycle's in. It's the fates. I'll let the art come to because I don't want to. It's interesting. I just find it interesting how that picture's quite. I like it anyway. Santa likes that picture. Reminds me of his Mrs. Claus.
You imagine it as me. Oh, well, I would say that Mrs. Claus have let herself go a bit. It's not. She's no looker
Depends what
anymore.
time frame you're from. Depends what time frame you're from.
Yeah, but I should also, for the sake of it, it took inspiration from a man named Sava Sikluk, whatever. Can't pronounce that. Uh, and I found it very interesting. So it's a Serbian man who does Serbian visual art and outside art, and I lost Santa.
So it's all right, Santa's still here. He's just having a drink. I don't want to make this an 18 plus. You don't want to, the kids don't want to see Santa drinking. He didn't go orange anyway, or
He
no,
said,
Santa's got his mead. Yeah.
he says it's the Carlsberg, yeah. He says the wheel, it's the wheel in Buddhism, but at the same time the woman represents the castes, the serfs and the warriors. One tries to ascend, one is falling down. Two are the merchants, one is the cellarus, one is the antithesis to it, Antichrist. The one on top keeps everything in check. And then he says Merry Christmas.
Brilliant. No, he's a really interesting mind, this person. It's not just like mindless, like why do you do that? Because it looks nice. There's a lot of meaning behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, which I found very impressive. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll send him a mail later, and he.
So is he on the good list then, not the naughty
No,
list
it's on
then?
the good list.
He's
It's on the good list.
brilliant, brilliant.
Santa. I was thinking about the good and bad lists. So the people in the bad list gets coal, right?
In our modern age, yes. Yeah.
But but wouldn't that be a good gift today? Counting the energy
Yeah.
crisis.
Again, things like that happen, yeah. I need to remember that when I'm flying over Donbass later on to bring a bag of coal with me. Yeah. You're very fortunate though, Pomen.
Mhm.
I'm the last person that's going to be doing the podcast. But again, my sleigh's ready and packed. I just got to check off the present list, make sure the reindeers are fed, and then we're ready to fly. So yeah. But before then, you're the lucky guy who gets to interview Santa for an hour anyway.
Yeah,
Before,
it's fun.
yeah.
But Santa, you had a lot of history you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so again, when you said about Santa, for instance, where would we think that the name comes from? So obviously we're thinking maybe later things like Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus. Again, I'm dressed like again, the only reason I'm dressed like him, there's two reasons. There's a cultural reason why Coca-Cola took that idea up, that this is the modern attire of what we'd call Saturn. He can be remembered in the Yuletide things as Odin. It's the same character or aspects of a character. But we'll find this later on. So the idea is, why did the attire change? We mentioned this earlier on in the introduction. In 1931, they standardized by a big advertising campaign. Of course, it's the Coca-Cola guy. It's the Santa Claus. He obviously is, you may think, let's begin this way. Like, why am I dressed as I am and what's missing? So, example, the hat. Now, as much as, well, because this is quite an interesting one, this, there's two ways of looking at this. This is a free man's hat. If you call this up on, like call it up, Elf, on the screen, or share it with the audience and stuff. Look at what's something called a pileus. I think Pieleus or something. It translates into Greek and Roman felt. The idea is this was viewed as the hat of a free man. So Santa's attire, that's obviously the colour that comes later on, but the actual hat, this originally St. Nicholas, this was a bishop's hat. Now it's not. So get what I mean. At the moment, I've not got a bishop's hat on. So even though I'm influenced by the St. Nicholas character, this is something else. A lot of people think it's Scandinavian, like Elven or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's a Greco-Roman thing. This denoted that you're a free man. In the eyes of the law, this was an interesting little pastime in ancient Rome. If I was a free, I mean, it's pretty obvious if I'm free or not. I mean, would a poor man be able to dress as a senator or something like that, or be able to host a gladiatorial games at his expense? Well, he got to be a free man. And one of the things as well is you can own weapons as well. Now, obviously, if I'm a peasant, it's pretty obvious. Because, well, not a peasant, a slave. Now, one of the ways they can get round this, and it was actually a form of Roman law, you'd have your head shaved, and then you'd have a felt cap like this put on it. And at that point, it meant you was free. Now, you could argue, what are we being free from? Now, this is one of the, again, Santa Claus, it goes really, really far back. And when I mentioned earlier on Saturn, we're dealing with Roman festival at this time of year. It begins on the 17th of December and it ends on the 23rd. This is what's called Saturnalia. And this is the day when the rich would serve the poor at the table. They would have a casting of lots, or like by just sheer chance, who's going to be the king of Saturnalia, or what we'd call later on in medieval Europe the Lord of Misrule. And because remember, this is what's interesting about Christmas time. It's again, just to date the actual podcast, we're doing this on the 18th. This is the second day of Saturnalia. Now, in Rome,
Mm-hmm.
this was a big deal. And the idea is that, so remember the seasons as well factor into this. I'm trying to work backwards. It's what we're dealing with, the source information. We're talking about the Feast of Saturnalia. It's exclusively through Roman sources. So I'm kind of working backwards through this. I'm giving you what the festival is, and I'm going to deconstruct like why it happened this way. So the idea is that, like I said, the all year round, you're slaving in the fields. It's a remember, 98% of the world's population were farmers in Europe anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, less people are farmers. I think it's 2%. It's the inverse of that. So, and you're governed by the seasons. So most of the year, you're doing back-breaking labour under the sun,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Mediterranean. It's boiling hot. When we come to winter, there's not then much else to do. All the food's been brought in, it's been stored, it's been accounted for, all the beer's been accounted for,
Yeah.
everything. So this is one of the times of the year. This happened in what would you call it, in medieval Europe with Saints' Days later on, whereby being a Christian in medieval Europe's a good thing because the manor had to put on beer, food, and other things for the peasants. So if you're toiling in the fields, you get this 1 year reward. And one of the weird aspects behind this is because there was no social distinction. So normally, Pomen's the boss,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like me turning around saying like, go and screw you, and there'd be no legal
Mm-hmm.
repercussions. Another thing that they did, Christmas cards at the Feast of Saturnalia. One of the aspects behind this is you send each other greetings, and the kind of comedic ones. So there's actually a case in the sources where it says to the best poet in Rome. Sorry, not the best, to the worst poet in Rome, and really was like one of the greatest. So it's kind of where, like we send nowadays seasonal greeting cards. This is what I'm saying. Christmas goes all the way back to the Roman Empire period. Now, it even gets older than this. It even gets older, like the Roman Empire. We're talking about the days of the Roman Republic. This is when the sources are written down. This is all the information we've got to go off. So I have to now reconstruct from Roman sources
Mm-hmm.
this little festival. Now, one of the weird things is when we get to this, in regards to like the seniority of a god and everything,
Mm-hmm.
or like, how would we call it now? Who's the oldest? Or like root words. So if you call up common, the word Saturn, call up on your screen, for instance. Was it now you type in, the god Saturn, not the planet.
Saturn, yeah.
You'll then look at the etymology of his name. It means sowing seeds. Now, this is one of the things, if we're ever dealing with to time festivals and to date what culture we're dealing with. So, example, I've said this is how the Roman Empire celebrated Saturnalia. One of the issues is it goes well far back in time. It goes all the way back to the Neolithic. If anything is revolving around solstices, alignments of planets, this isn't Indo-European.
Mm.
This isn't Yamnaya because it's funny because Italy linguistically is speaking Indo-European. Saturn doesn't seem to be an Indo-European god. He seems to be one of these Neolithic gods,
Mm-hmm.
or something that they've ascribed to the seasons. So, example, whenever we're dealing, because example, I know from looking at your little YouTube playlist, you've all, well, unfortunately, that dickhead who took you there couldn't get you into Newgrange. But if that guy could have got you in there,
Yeah.
that guy that I've seen
Nothing.
him on your show, he's done several lectures. He was a great lecturer and stuff like that. That guy I've seen working for you, but God, he couldn't get you into Newgrange. But if he could have got you in, that would have been one of these places whereby the sun aligns on or the moon, like planets even align on certain days of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, and again, anything that's built of gigantic stone has an older root in its history. So, example, and this is where we get to how do we know that Saturn is he Roman, is he Italian, or is he something else? Is he Etruscan? So, example, if you look at the Etruscan version of Saturn, he has a very similar name, Satyr, or
Mm-hmm.
something very similar to that. Again, it even says at the bottom of the article, this is a riddle and a mystery. They know very little about Etruscan history.
Mm-hmm.
So, example, this is the weird thing about the Italian peninsula. It's an Indo-European elite replacement of a Neolithic, what we call the Tyrrhenian language. And these are the people who are very similar to Basques, similar to Sardinians, and Etruscan is one of these. It's a non-Indo-European language. We find in some of the scant records about the Etruscans, this is one of the gods they celebrated. Obviously, everything we're hearing is a passed down through time thing. So this is again a little history on how Roman history works and culture. So if I said to you, how did they used to worship Saturn? The idea would be is that according to what we call the Roman rite, and this meant whereby it was passed down from father to son, and some of the Roman patriarchal families have descent from Etruscan families. So the idea is this group of Italians have elite replaced a load of Tyrrhenian speakers, and yet some of the Roman nobility later on claim descent from Etruscans. One of the So they have this way of doing the rites and everything, the particular rituals. What happens is though the Roman Empire is at war with the Punic Empire, so that's the Carthaginians. Now, this is where it gets mad. Saturn and Baal Hamon. This is what I'm saying. The idea that who Santa really is, because obviously is Saturn. He isn't just an Indo-European thing. Get that idea out of your head that it's just completely European construction. This thing goes all the way back to the Middle East, Neolithic and things. The idea is when the Romans had a battle with the Carthaginians, the Carthaginians won. So what do you do? Well, it turns out that the last king of Rome, the last king of Rome, Tarquinius, had gone and bought a load of things called the Sibylline text. These are Greek ways of worshipping
Mm-hmm.
God. So what happens is at Saturnalia, they say you can tell what's Roman, or more precisely, what's Etruscan, and what is a later Greek addition. So, example, at the Saturnalia festival, you have to have an effigy of Saturn sat there on a couch like he's enjoying the festival itself. That's a Greek idea. That's not an Etruscan idea. How you worship as well. Apparently, you support. So Saturn, if you look at pictures of him, call up a picture. He has a hood, not one of these hats. That's why I like starting with the head first, because because we were looking downwards. We were started this little segment, but the idea is where's the hat from? That's the freedman. That's not how Saturn dressed. Saturn had a hood up. Odin has a hood up. One of the things you notice as well is his Saturn's always seen with a scythe. This guy isn't, like I said, a Yam. Example Zeus. People always look at him and think, well, is he Yamna or is he not? Are some of the Germanic gods, are they Yamna or they're not? We definitely know with certainty that Saturn isn't. He's one of these Neolithic gods. And the idea is, you would have seen this if you'd have been in Newgrange on the 17th at the oldest religious site in Rome. So this is the thing, Romulus and Remus. Who founded Romulus and Remus? Indo-Europeans. Yes, but what do they say it takes priority? The Roman city, what we call Rome, used to be the city of Saturn. It used to have a little town in its city, and it called Saturn, like Saturn's town. The idea is this was a golden age in Italian thought. They believed, going back to the Neolithic, when we literally had like food production on a massive scale, the environment, we haven't had invasions yet. The Etruscans who passed this on to the Romans believed in this golden age, and they believed it all started in. So, in other words, this lost golden age city, what is it? It's probably in Italian, well, what's in modern day Italy, Etruscan town, where food production were great, and again, they're a Neolithic culture, so everything revolves around, like lining up the solstice, when to plant your crops, when to harvest them, and at this time of year, all the peasants are indoors, all the farmers are indoors, and because 98% of the population of the planet has been farmers, this is how this little thing has spread about. Because you could argue,
So
well, we're going on about Italians a lot, aren't we?
yeah,
Oh,
but
go on, yeah, go on, Pomen.
so question, it's like where did the Etruscans come from? So
Oh, right. So what the Etruscans are, yeah, they're Neolithic farmers who then end up, uh, they live in the Italian peninsula. These are part of what we'd call the cardio word culture. So it's the Basques, people in Sardinia, Tyrrhenians. There's another group who live in Greece. These are the non-Indo-European speakers. So these are people. So because remember, the Indo-Europeans are invading. What are they invading? It's the Neolithic lands, and these are cultures. So, example, the Italian language itself. It's even though it is alphabet-wise, it's not linear A, it's not linear B. That is Phoenician made into the modern alphabet. But some of the subtlety, you find this for Greek. What makes their language different? In Greek, there's a local Neolithic element. In Roman, it's that Tyrrhenian Etruscan element. So Saturn is not an Indo-European bronze metal making, like chariot horseback riding god. He is a scythe wielding. They call it a chthonic god. This is in the same. I mean, again, call up what they actually call Saturn. What some of his titles, for instance, like he is the god of. So in Greek, he becomes Kronos in Greece. If you think about it, so he becomes the god of time, the god of abundance, the god of seasons. This isn't like the god of metal making. This isn't the god of war, for instance. Saturn clearly has a role of being involved in making sure food production, abundance in food production. And again, there's an element of this, and all cultures do it. The Greeks do it with the Bronze Age collapse, the idea of a golden age. The Etruscans remember a time when every 17th, at the oldest thing in Rome, religious structure, the Temple of Saturn, whereby, and again, I presume that alternate whether or not because he even said the festival was deviated by a couple of days. So don't think, audience, you can go to Rome and go, does this line up on a certain? It would have done at a certain time. Remember, we've had calendars changing because there's an aspect to this as well. It's like, where do we get the word April Fool from? That's someone who's obeying the older calendar system. Because obviously our seasons have gone so out of sync and everything. That's one of the derivations. Hey, April Fool, what's that about? That's someone who's not
uh,
adapted to the new calendar system.
so
Yeah.
is there
But
a link?
so the ads. Oh yeah, continue.
Is
Yeah.
there a link between Mercury and Saturn when it comes to food and wealth?
Right. The link between Mercury and Saturn. So, for instance, Odin is conflated with Mercury in so when the Romans interacted with the Germans,
Hmm.
Mercury was mistook for Odin, and we know that Odin's Saturn because Saturn has the exact same thing, a hood.
Hmm.
Now, the slight difference is, and again, it's cultural regional specialization. So, Saturn has a more of a Neolithic farming link. Odin, though, what's some of his titles? The Lord of Frenzy, the Lord of the Possessed. They think with Odin, it's a little bit like Zeus. So in chthonic gods, what you find is he's one ultimate god that then needs. This happens at the Temple of Saturn. He has two helper gods. These become the elves or Krampus, as we'd call them. The idea that we need someone to be naughty, someone to be nice, or to award the naughty and the nice people. That's that idea. But any Neolithic god represents the stars above you. So, example, the idea is Saturn, a planet. It's traveling across the sky, and at the exact on the 17th, it's it goes into the house of Capricorn, which
Mm-hmm.
is where he resides. And then not long after it, on the 21st, is the equinox, the shortest day of the year. And obviously, if you've been to Newgrange or anyone else, that's the time of the year when it's the portal to divinity itself, to eternity.
Mm.
It's the shortest day of the year, yet it's when your ancestors are. Because remember, it's a world of rebirth and cyclical. It's a farming culture. And again, that golden age records a time when it was perfect. So if you live in a winter time where you're having to make some really hard choices, I mean, there is a macabre bit because he's a chthonic god. It's a Neolithic culture. Naughty and nice. Would that be a bit metaphorical or is it literal? We have because the Neolithic culture had to make decisions, especially in harsh winters. Who survives, who doesn't?
Mm.
Which child has to infanticide? That's one of the horrible bits about the Christmas story. In Neolithic culture, they practiced infanticide and I don't think as they want to do this for fun. It's not like they had a choice in this. In some cases, they had to make horrible decisions based upon what they had available to them. So, but then again, the naughty and nice thing takes different connotations as time goes on. So, I mean, it depends how you want to look at it. So, for instance, a lot of the chthonic gods, Saturn particularly. So, during Saturnalia, not only did we have parties, role reversal, slaves being fed by the masters,
Mm.
colosseums. They had to have the fill of heads. Was one of the ideas. There seems to be a duality to Saturn. Right now, Saturn represents the pattern, the fates. Fate cannot be changed. Saturn represents abundance, but he also has a darker side to him. He's also and then so he's also in the practical sense, nature is neither loving
But
nor it cares little about your affairs. But the human experience is to personify it. And what happens is we get, so example, Odin, as much as he has aspects of Saturn to him, he then personifies the more destructive side and a bit of the wisdom side.
yeah, I
So
mean,
it's not, there is a bit of a duality to him. But they think this split happens during the Indians are a good example, the Indo-Europeans of India. Their culture goes down that route where they get a god, a precursor or powerful god, getting two helpers. And that would be, without sounding horrible, uh, like God and the devil in the Christian, like say, for instance, this anthropology is saying that anything we're seeing now is a continuation of Neolithic thought. I mean, example, this is the mad bit about it. Like, say, a lot of the sites and they're all gone now, in Scandinavia where
mm,
you live, for instance, in
yeah,
places. There are certain towns and other places which have a certain prefix,
yeah.
Lund, which Lund or Lund. And what that means is grove. Now, if you look across Denmark, you'll see a god's name and then the word Lund, meaning devote a god for that grove, or like it devoted to him, or that grove's devoted to him.
Keep talking until I get
One of
something.
the so one of the aspects is where a lot of mod olden groves would have been in the Scandinavian lore. A lot of them were cut down. Example, Saint Boniface, the English saint, when he went over again poking his nose in like any good Anglo does, he cuts down these old groves. So they're either trees or they're like Stonehenge, where you actually put like a totem pole where you carve an effigy of your god in it, stick it in the ground. Christian saints did cut these down, but they usually made a church out of the wood and it was on the site of the grove. Now, an astute person would think, well, therefore, certain churches would have certain alignments at certain times of the year. So that's a train of study that I'm sure Santa would love to see researched at some point. But if this is a continuation of thought, like, so for example, in the Neolithic period, how did they know where to build Stonehenge, Newgrange? They'd have put the life tree up. Think the Garden of Eden. Remember, the fig is the oldest domesticated fruit. So they'd have put up a tree, or it could have been a natural oak tree. They'd have looked every year. They'd have noticed that the shadow changes, and then from that they notice lengthening of days, shortening of event, and then seasonal changes. From that, then you can base agriculture and get like you already need the seeds and the animals,
Mm-hmm.
but likewise you need to know in Europe when to plant it. So this is
No,
I mean, again, again, this is why the Santa thing, despite some of the, because we're going to go into a bit like why the character developed up over time. So I'm describing, like I said, the Neolithic Saturn, which is based on the Etruscan thing. Goes obviously the Carthaginians have their own example, Baal Hamon. We have Odin being the personification of one of the aspects of this god. So Odin isn't Saturn precisely. He's one of the aspects to him. Like you say, let's say like God and the devil. Like remember, because
Yeah,
you've got Odin and Loki and things like that. That sort of idea. And then again, you compare it with Indian culture, and they have that a pre-existing God that then has two helpers of some kind. Because notice what happens with Krampus. Oh, what's this? The baghead of eat? Yeah, yeah.
the Bhagavad
A
Gita.
good bit of good bit of Indo-European literature. That
Yeah,
audience, yeah, because again they have stuff that so in the West we had no reading and writing
hmm
until some of us developed linear A and B, the Mediterranean cultures, and then we're thankful that the Phoenicians give us an alphabet. But the Indians, their legends go well far back. They split off quite early in the cultural thing. Again, and you can see the elite replacement model going on. But this is an example that if you read that book, Pomen, you'll
yep,
see aspects of older gods that are clearly Neolithic, and anything revolving around metalwork, horses, and chariots.
yep.
So, example, the
It's
Wild
Indo-European.
Hunt.
Yes, I know. I mean,
Yeah,
just take. This is the Hare Krishna version, so it's take it with a grain of
yeah.
salt. But you can see the see if you get any focus on it at all. Not really.
But they're not Neolithic. You can tell them are the Indo-European invaders. So, example, Odin and the Wild Hunt. This is one of the problems. If it's Odin walking, that could
hmm
be a Neolithic funeral procession.
Yep.
Maybe. The problem is in later literature, it becomes the Wild Hunt where they're on horseback.
Yep.
So when I
Um. Uh,
start seeing Odin appearing, it's usually around the time things like that appear. When you start seeing it, but again, that's a good book to read about what I'm talking about this clash of cultures.
yeah.
And it don't take long, very short amount of time before you start seeing amalgams of various things.
I mean, the
Yeah.
entire book here is the Indo-Europeans coming along and being in conflict with people. So it
Yeah,
is a.
yeah, and in Europe they were the Neolithic farmers, like say the Etruscans or like say the Basque, the Tyrrhenians, the Sardinians. That's what yeah.
But what I find interesting as well is like, so you can take the Bhagavad Gita. In the European, they created Hinduism in a sense. It was a form. So majority of religions are Indo-European, even the Easterns. So again,
Yeah,
Hinduism, Buddhism, or any Eastern religion
but as well,
is
yeah, but even with our European things. So, for instance, like if you just like let's say we're looking at Europe specifically, though,
mm,
like every culture that the Indo-Europeans took over,
mm,
they had a pre-existing framework. So
mm,
obviously, the Neolithic people in Ireland are different. So, example, think the wars of invasions. Because if you look at the Irish literature, it's about the seven, like the Formians, the Tuatha Dé Ón, uh, the giant people who built the Giant's Causeway.
yeah,
Them would be different people than what the Yamna were taking on in India. They were Dravidians, they called. The people in southern India. They've got I mean, you can tell they've got a slightly different aesthetic to them. They've got a different, I mean, genetically as well, it's slightly different. But you can see this though. There's a definite parallel. But I mean, again, the Persians, for instance, the land is ancient, really old. People have always lived there. But again, elite replacement. It happened with the Hittites. We've been a lot of places. They even think in China, for instance, that the only reason they had chariots is because they bumped into our guys. Because
most
there's only
likely.
one group. Because there's only one group of people. So like I say, regarding Odin, when people, this is why people go, oh, don't, because I can't see the chat because I've probably got a load of a lot of heathenry going on saying, why are you relegating Odin to second fiddle? But the Wild Hunt involves Odin, and it's a Celtic thing as well. And so we could think maybe it's a blend of funeral processions, but the fact that he's mentioned and it's in the Wild Hunt, the Yule ones,
Mm,
when it's that night of the year. And again, why it's interesting because in Scandinavia it doesn't really explain why it's a spooky night, or in the Celtic world why it's spooky, because in the Neolithic age that preceded it, this was the time when the equinoxes were happening. So for the Tyrrhenians, the Etruscans, they took the 17th as being a very important day. But at Newgrange, it's the 21st. That's when the light shines through the thing. So like I was saying, if you go to some of the groves in Scandinavia, and it's a shame because the Scandinavians didn't, because it's wood, it doesn't preserve very well. So likewise, and again, a lot of Christian saints burnt it down. But I bet if so, Saint Boniface, for example, but smashed down a grove and made a church out of it. Now,
mm,
if he was intelligent, he would have lined that up to be where the sunlight is.
mm.
So in some buildings, you can have a destruction of a site. This happens in Ireland sometimes, but there's still a continuation of like the old model. It is fascinating. And again, this is one of the reasons the Santa Claus legend is hard to stamp out. It's like in Christianity, and this is the next guy we'll go into, the actual Saint Nicholas himself. Yo
Mm.
ho ho. So one of the things about the actually before we leave off though, contemporary evidence of what I'm talking about. So I'm saying Saturn's a chthonic god. He has a scythe and there's potential child sacrifice and things like that. And remember, it's all about relaying the heavy, the fates. This is another aspect of the fates. The fates unchangeable. What are they actually talking about? They're on about the stars because every year the stars would be exactly the same. Certain things would move into alignment. It's immutable. It even says this in the Bible, like until the sun and the moon, and this is continuing. So you have that aspect. Remember, the old primitive world, there was less light pollution. These people could like look up and it'd be, thousands of pinpricks of light, and it was predictable where things are going. So Saturn, is obviously relaying that. And again, the root word of Saturn doesn't seem to be. I mean, it seems to precurse it. So we have that aspect. Train of thought. Yeah. So, like I said, we spoke about Odin and stuff, whereby he clearly is a bit of a later edition. Again, Pomen showing us was it Mahavita and everything. That's a
Bhagavad
good
Gita.
example of. Yeah, that's a good example. That book of when you start seeing a Neolithic god having two representatives, or at least
Yeah.
splitting off and having the division of thing. So anyway, Saint Nicholas. What's he all about? Potentially, though, he could be. So he's a Christian saint. He lived during the reign of Diocletian. I remember on your channel, Pomen, that guy Rick, he did a lecture in Ukraine about this. The medieval Dark Ages. Good show prep. I was reading it earlier on. Whereby there's this collapsing Roman Empire, things have begun moving into a distinctly Dark Age feudal period.
Uh-huh.
So the Dark Ages didn't begin in 475, they actually began in 270. This is the time
Shit.
frame when St. Nicholas himself was alive. So Saint Nicholas, where is he from? He's from a place in Turkey called Myra, I believe, something like. Now, remember the Roman Empire? It's not just Italy, audience. It's all the way to Egypt and beyond. It goes as far as the Parthian Empire,
Oh,
as far as the borders of
like,
Persia. The
was it late antiquity to the Renaissance? Now, what was the name of the lecture
Yeah,
you made? Oh,
reciprocity and market change. Yeah, so it's
yeah.
270 audience. If you want the background, because I'm not going to go too much into this because
Bruh,
otherwise it's a lot to unpack. So it's during the
bruh.
reign of Diocletian that yours truly, Saint Nicholas, lived. The idea is his family are already lines of bishops anyway. So the idea is he gets consecrated by in local town. Uh, Now you
Yeah.
might think, why does he become so popular globally? Because everybody's potentially a good guy, and everyone does good work locally. He gets because this is the weird connection with Holland. How does a Roman Dark Age saint end up being so remembered in Holland? How does he become an international saint? So the idea is and if you look upon who he is venerated by, like what he's the patron of. Because if you type in audience Saint Nicholas, it'll come up with a list of saints and stuff. You'll notice there's quite an eclectic mix on that board. So one of them is he stands up for what is it now? He's a patron saint of children. So obviously Santa Claus loves giving gifts to kids and stuff. Why is this connection with Saint Nicholas and children? Because during this 270 reign, during Diocletian's reign, there was a famine. It was horrible. A local butcher killed killed three children.
Oof.
Remember Saturn, child sacrifice, that sort of stuff. This is what happens in famines and times of hardship. A butcher pickled three kids in vinegar and was selling them as pork, or intended to do. So St. Nicholas got wind of it and did quite a rare feat, resurrected the three dead children from the barrel that were going to be sold as pork. So he becomes then therefore like the patron saint of children. He also is one of the saints of people at university. Now
Mm.
remember when we think in university, it's not the modern day university. Think Oxford in the medieval period. It's a seminary. It's a place where you
Mm.
learn a little bit about the world, a lot about the Bible. So obviously he gets quite an audience. One of the things he does as well is he calms a storm. Now, remember how I said a chthonic god, whereby it's clearly more primeval. So Saturn's the sky father in a way. What by calming the storm, what does that make you? It makes you the Poseidon. So in a weird way, Saint Nicholas, because he calms storms, become Poseidon. Now, obviously, patron saint of sailors. Now,
Yeah,
in the medieval
sailors.
period, so now, so this is how he gets connected into the soul because it's a bit of a train of custody. When it now, there's actually modern evidence of
But
this. We have his, yeah,
this question here: were the Roman nobles good sports about serving their slaves on Saturnalia?
yeah. Well, actually, I'll go into more detail on that. They'd actually give sometimes money for them to buy other people gifts with. You could. There were one quote I was reading about. It said, "You because remember, let's say your master gives you a couple of coins,
Mhm.
3 coins, let's say. I could gamble that and be set up for life, and that sometimes happened. A master would turn around and say, "Your gift is 3 coins. I'm going to go to betting because on Saturnalia gambling." So the idea is, remember when I said the seasons, fate cannot be changed. So one of the things is it's social upheaval, whereby master serves servant. Gambling's illegal normally in most cultures. You can do it freely. So if your master gives you some coins, you can bet it. You can be set up for life. So they even said it's the let's say we were attending a senator's Saturnalia party. It said in some cases it would cost as much as an exotic animal or as a slave. So some people, as a gift, to give you a massive present. It said if you were a true friend, you'd give them a little wax figurine
Mhm.
or something that was no value but meant a lot because I've gone to effort to say, here, let's say I travelled halfway across the land to go, there's your wax figurine. It actually shows familiarity with that social network. That
Are you
overvalued
sure?
present means that you don't know the guy, if it sounds daft. Yeah.
Are you sure they didn't just say that in the journals? Going, oh yeah, okay, thank you. And then it's like hiding, like
Well,
hating it. I hate it.
the reason, back to like we were saying, the reason that social norms were upended is
Hmm.
because it's fate and everything will go back to normal again. So we've only got from the 17th till the 23rd to do this, the
Hmm.
Saturnalia, but we have to remember it's over with on the 23rd. And what they do is, again, this extended into Christian culture. So you can kind of tell as well, audience, who's been contaminated from where. So in England, we have Father Christmas. He doesn't wear red. He's dressed as like a nature god. He's got green laurel, ivy leaves and stuff like that. He's wearing a brown coat. He doesn't wear this. Again, this is St. Nicholas's colours. This is the colours of a bishop.
Hmm.
The hat's wrong. That's Saturnalia hat. The colour, obviously the beard's Saturn as well. The colours clearly St. Nicholas and stuff. But the Father Christmas in England, because this is interesting because some people turn around and say, so what makes you think Father Christmas is Saturn? The fact that Britain wasn't Romanized to the same degree as France. So if I start seeing the Lord of Misrule in
Hmm.
France, yeah, that clearly is a Saturnalia continuation into the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
or back to that time period. Britain's different. We had a very different background. We weren't Romanized like the French were or the Gauls. So if we've got a character who seems extremely like Saturn and no Romans to spread it, means I'm probably right, audience, that Saturn, Father Christmas are the same guy in that sense. So that's the thing. So even though I introduce myself as I'm English, which Father Christmas would be,
Hmm.
he'd be dressed in a brown coat. Very similar audience. I'll read this later on. Your source evidence for Santa, Clement Clark Moore. This is the guy who popularizes what my job is. And he's the guy who sets, remember Coca-Cola Company, 1931, set what I look like. This was written prior to that, and that tells you what Santa's job description is. He also gives you a physical description, and he isn't dressed like this. So remember, what's happened is Saint Nicholas. So he was like, I said, the what was the question, by the way? I sense there a question that I've kind of probably not answered.
Were the Roman nobles good sports about serving the slaves on
Yeah,
Saturnalia?
they were. Yeah, they were because they knew that you could be completely off the wall because you knew it had a limit point. So, example, in a world whereby there's well, anything could happen, you're going to take this seriously. But likewise, everybody, the rich and the poor, all wore one of these because it meant legally I'm free. If you wore a Christmas hat, and that's what I think that's what's funny about Christmas because everyone gets a Christmas hat, and it's true. Like, let's say you're the King of England or you're a homeless
Uh,
person, you have to wear this, and it
okay,
means that legally you're on the same level.
okay. So, question: are you Santa, a Coke man or Pepsi man?
I actually like Coca-Cola. And that's not because of product placement, because I've been told to dress like this. But I actually prefer Coca-Cola rather than Pepsi. Yeah. But
Okay.
back in my day, in Santa's day, it would have been mead if I'm Scandinavian or something like that. Uh, or one of Odin's favourite drinks is mead, isn't it? Remember the mead of poetry? What gives him,
Yes, they all
what was
drink
it?
mead.
Yeah. I mean, again, what it is. It's a unique blend. It's Neolithic stuff mixed in with Greco-Roman ideas, Christianity, like I said, Saint Nicholas. So one of the back to
I
him
mean,
before I forget. So the idea is, why does he become important to the Dutch, and why is he an international saint in Europe? And it's not just because he's saved some kids and other miracles. People do just as good.
but I
What
mean,
happened
I was
is
thinking like, if not drinking alcohol, like mead, what else could they drink? There wasn't much you could
yeah,
drink.
yeah. So in the Middle East, for instance, like the Roman Empire, for instance, like the water sources can be cleaner. The Roman aqueducts made it so whereby people could have fresh water. In Dark Age Europe and cholera,
Yeah.
typhus. There's loads of diseases, and it's the idea is you have to boil your water or you have to have alcohol. So the idea is it was pretty grim. Like they'd go straight off the teat to like weak alcohol. They were, and I suppose it weren't like they were hammered all the time, but it weren't like everyone was sober either.
Like
Back in the
I know
olden
in
days.
Sweden, even in the 1900s, early 1900s, we usually give alcohol to children. Very soft type of alcohol, uh, because it was cleaner than normal water, because it's distilled and the alcohol also kills certain bacteria. So it was very common.
I mean, for instance, this is one of the arguments, for instance, like with Islam, for instance, they say don't drink alcohol. Now, they can afford to say that because the lands that they annexed had Roman aqueducts.
Ah,
So this is one of the things like in medieval Europe, if Islam had a two core, but let's say medieval Europe, well, good luck with that because unless we're able to boil our water or purify it, we're going to be dying. Because most water sources, like say, if you're drinking water, you have no idea is upstream from you, especially in Europe where the geography is so it lends itself to bit intercene warfare and stuff where you don't know, every wasn't there in some parts of the world like every mountain and valley has a different civilization in it in theory.
yeah.
But yeah, so now back like I said back to the Saint Nicholas idea. So why does he become important then in medieval Europe? So what happens is in just before the Crusades are happening. So we're talking, and this is when the Catholic Church is in schism with the Orthodox Church. So remember, Turkey is Byzantine Orthodox, and they're not friends with the Catholics anymore. The Seljuk Turks are coming. So what do some Italian merchants from the town of Bari do? Let's go and do some tomb robbery. Bit of Indiana Jones, but it's not in a museum. It goes into a place that would be cost benefit analysis. It was a business back then. It's a pretty horrible subject to discuss, but the
Mhm.
Saint Bones were a major financial lure.
Yeah.
And there's many cases in Europe where saints have many heads, many more than 10 fingers, because a lot of people claim ownership to it. And the Catholic Church literally said like one saint had several heads because it's the only way you can
Mm.
square the circle without making everyone look like a tomb robber. So the idea is back in this day and age, in the medieval period, the saints, even though they're dead, they're still alive. A little bit like we were talking about earlier, there's a
Mhm.
pattern to fate and stuff. Saturn's still with us, even though like where is it? So the idea is even though the saint's dead, his bones have power. It would go as far as accosting the bishops. You could bribe them, maybe cajole and threaten them, as long as you've got the bones. And the crucial part is, are the bones happy? So it means that along the way, you have to do miracles, or the population that has it ends up in a bountiful situation. So
So,
the bones of
question.
St. Nicholas end up in the city of Bari.
Mm.
This becomes the jump off point for the Crusades. Now, St. Nicholas, he is not a military saint. Do you honestly think I'm fighting looking like this? So the whole point is why then do Crusaders take him seriously? Do you remember, like I said, he calmed the storm, is Poseidon. All these knights in shining armor and horses, they're not good swimmers. They're
Mm.
used to fighting, but they're not good at, like, they're not sailors. So if you're in the city of Bari, it's an immediately accessible saint. The saints' bones are a lot, the power of the saints. All go there and pray. Oh, and that's why all the surviving crusaders, especially French people in Normandy and other places that later on influence Holland, have this idea. So there's even like little bits of his skeleton sent all the way to Normandy. And they've actually, the shame is they opened up the tomb in the 1950s to do literally like reconstruction work because they said the place is falling down.
Mm.
These bones haven't been moved since like 1080 or whatever it is, and they took X-rays and everything, but they didn't take DNA samples. So unfortunately, but anatomical though, it's interesting because there seems to be one part of the pelvis in one place and another part in another, or like different corresponding bones and teeth. So they're saying like, but the best they can say is until we've done genetic analysis of the bones of St. Nicholas, he was a person who died at this time
Mm-hmm.
in the early 300s. Whether that guy's St. Nicholas or not, we don't know. But the merchant, and it's actually caused an international incident. Well, not an incident, but like the Turks, the Russians, and the Greeks and the Italians don't get on this issue in some instances. So the Italians claimed it was a rescue mission. But even though he's an Orthodox saint and it's an Orthodox land, oh, we've got to save the bones from the Seljuk Turks. The Turks claim that's Turkey, return the bones. Now, what they actually did is a workaround and a compromise. They actually sent the bones of St. Nicholas to Moscow. And
Mm-hmm.
strangely enough, St. Nicholas is actually the patron of the Russian Navy as well, strangely enough. So, how do you think I'm getting over the Black Sea earlier? Yeah, later on. Or, yeah, so that's one of the ideas. So Saint Nicholas, and obviously then he becomes in Northern Europe. So obviously it's post Saint Nicholas. You then get Sinterklaas.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is what. So obviously Saint Nicholas, he doesn't have elves with him, and he is obviously got a bishop's mitre on. Sinterklaas is a little bit different. Now this is the weird bit. If I asked you where does Sinterklaas start the journey from, Pomen, where would you think it's from? You'd think the North Pole, wouldn't you? No, Spain. And he has brought along with him, remember as well, oh, St. Nicholas as well, forgot to mention, audience, what made him the generous guy, the Christmas gift giving. Remember Saturnalia? We do that anyway, giving gifts. But what he did is he bought, during the famine and the war and everything, three girls were in poverty. The father couldn't afford a dowry. So he had to throw through the window a coin every night to make sure his daughters didn't become prostitutes. So the idea is think about it, the Christmas bauble, the circle. Because it's a bit unexplainable. What's the bauble about? That's supposed to be the coins of St. Nicholas. So the idea is in Sinterklaas legend, because they've kind of half misremembered this, instead of it being golden coins, it is pomegranates and oranges from Spain. And likewise, instead of a white-faced elf, who is audience, these would probably be what we'd call nymphs and fairies in the Celtic lore. These are local. So, for example, if someone says, "What's an elf?" Because you've got something in your country called a tomka, aren't you? Or tomsk.
Tomte.
Yeah, he's the similar idea of whereby what becomes the helper thing. Like the helper creature, the elven character. They're usually what we'd call in lower nymphs, fairies. So in the Celtic and Germanic world, every tree, every water source had a spirit in it. So obviously, in the Neolithic culture, they'd buried dead everywhere. The Yamnar come in and settle on top of it. Every land usually has a burial site on it that you're not going to fuck with. You're not going to interfere with. And in your culture, I believe, if you have something like a messy house, this like
Yes.
elven character beats the shit out of you. Yeah, it chastises you, I believe, doesn't it?
I think it was a dirty barn because he's sleeping at the barn.
Yeah, if you leave the house dirty or if it's like unkept, because remember the house you're living in will probably is anywhere. Every Scandinavian plot would have a Neolithic burial tomb on it from the previous owner, maybe a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty logical. Remember, we're from a culture whereby every solstice the dead come alive. Think Halloween, wearing masks and stuff. Because that's one of the aspects as well. Like I say, Saturn needs heads because
Mm-hmm.
he's a chthonic god. What did the Romans do in other cultures? Like wear masks instead, or replace the head cutting off with a mask. So that becomes part of the Halloween. Again, it's interesting. Halloween, bonfire night, uh, the the midwinter solstice, Christmas, and New Year. It's a bit of a weird time frame. It's all interconnected, and every one of the festivals has aspects of it in it. So obviously, you guys don't do bonfire night because you didn't blow up your parliament in 1600, did you? Like the
Mm-hmm.
English tried doing.
Guy
So obviously a
Fawkes, yeah.
bonfire night, it will because of the gunpowder plot. But hang on a minute, we're already doing bonfires anyway. And one of the ideas of this is back to the Neolithic stuff. Every town would have a central fire, a fire pit. But I think they probably did this in Ireland. The idea is at the highest point on the highest hill, you'd have a fire lit from the previous embers of the previous fire. Think it's cyclical. Because if that fire we're using was lit from last year's fire, how is that fire still lit? In other words, this has gone back to the beginning of time. Think about it. In other words, the fire is perpetual. It's never, like the flame never goes out. So then what you do is you take it from the central point to your communal village, start a fire there, then you'd all take a bit of that ember and start your local fireplace. So, and one of the aspects behind this as well is, again, it's like the Yule log. Think about it. So the idea is as well, what they do is on the Yule night, it was called Mother's Night in England, which is interesting. Again, I think they were doing child sacrifice because it says the youngest child has to light the log and do it silently, and then there'll be a wish fulfilled. Probably hoping that he's not going to get killed in the Neolithic purges because there's not enough food and beer and things. But because it's kind of true, I mean, it's a subject that's a bit ghastly and horrible to talk about at Christmas. But like I say, Saturn does have aspects that are, again, have you been naughty and nice, And I think
So,
that's where it comes from. So
so the question becomes
regarding
then, Santa.
so remember St. Nicholas, like I was saying, right? So he comes from Spain. He doesn't have white-faced elves. He has black-faced elves. The modern Dutch government has claimed it is soot on the face. They're actually Moorish pirates from Spain. So what happened is in Spanish law, if you turn around and said, "Oh, let's say you're a child in medieval Spain, I'm going to go to the beach at night and have fun with my friends," and your parents have said, "Don't go out, you'll get captured by pirates." Oh, what do you know, Boomer? Well, guess what? Guess who got put in the bag and sent back to Spain as a slave? Yeah, the bad children, those who didn't listen to the parents. Likewise, Krampus. If you in medieval Germany and stuff, during famines when people would literally eat children and shit, if you go into the woods at night and remember, there's no lighting systems, there's no police to call upon,
Mhm,
there's no mobile phones. So, remember, like Hansel and Gretel, think about that,
mhm.
cannibalizing children. Well, this is what I'm saying. It's not, people think, oh, you're
This is why
making Christmas
stories
and
and
time.
myths exist. To
Yeah, this is a fact of life. This happened in our past more often than you'd think.
mhm.
Like I said, in even up to the Victorian days and even sooner, like child mortality. In most families, half the kids had died.
Hi.
Get doing that sort of idea. So death were normal for them, or in a
Mhm.
sense, which would have been bad decisions. What do we do when there's not enough food, or the weakest child has to go? Someone would have had to make that decision, and obviously it would have been, Saturn who oversees all this apparently. Yeah,
Who said that? Oh, shit, pardon, Santa. Um, Bum
damn
asked.
straight.
Bum asked if Pumus, meaning me, is on the naughty list or the nice list.
Hang on, let me count. Depends. Have you been down to a Spanish beach or have you been to a German wood? If you have, that means you're on the naughty list.
I'm not.
Or if
No,
the food quota not been met and we have to offer you to the flames of,
no, I got enough food.
Yeah, because remember this happens in the Middle East as well. You got like Baal Hamon. The Carthaginians used to do it. Hence why, back to original thing, how did the Romans go from worshipping a Neolithic local god to incorporating Greek ideas? It's because they screwed up in the Carthaginian battle. And likewise, because this character is even older than an Indo-European one, it's something that does. So you can get, without sending blasphemous audience, you can kind of identify who the Christian God is as well. He must be Santa as well, and he must have two helpers. Again, the Krampus, the devil, and the other guy, the good guy. And that because that's how the culture develops. We have this with the Indian stuff, like you were showing us about. This happens. It's like I say, most of the Middle East comes from the same original farming culture. So a lot of these ideas are quite like highly ingrained. So again, it sounds horrible, audience. We've lived longer like I'm describing than we have that you're living, which is a bit of an eye opener. Because everyone goes like, oh, like we've lived like this for the last like 50 years in some cases, in some cases newer. For like 7,000 BC onwards, we've lived like this. Like you said, the Saturnalia feast, when the fields, the winter festival were happening, the stars have aligned, everyone's in the longhouse or the beer hall, and all the slaves get a night off. Mixed in with, well, shit, some parents had to make a bad choice because of fucking food production being low this year. Yeah, there we go. Shill in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But, yeah, I was like, this is one of the bigger books I have, but the biggest book I have is this,
L. Ron Hubbard.
Dianetics. It's actually the
Well, you see,
largest book.
See what I'm talking about? It's not, like Graham Hancock and all that stuff,
Yeah.
like ancient aliens and all that other fucking crap. Instead, like what I'm explaining to the audience is like the real history of how our species lived and stuff. And what I hate about charlatans or some of these, I don't want to disrespect New Age types and everything, but they can kind of get it wrong. Can't believe we got Hubbard's book.
Yeah, no,
Anyway,
I got it for free as well. That was the
yeah.
best part about it.
Santa's just having a sip of his mead anyway. He's got a bit of a dry mouth.
I got the book for free, so I don't want to give them any money ever, and I tried to do what I can to learn as much as I can without giving them anything. And they were willing to give me this book. I asked many times said no because they want money, but I got it in the end. But there's a lot to say about Scientology, but I'm gonna get sued if I say anything. Okay,
So,
or I'll
no,
get
but so yeah,
locked in a
train of
room.
thought again. Because you went on a side tangent then about Scientology
Yeah,
then.
but shall we bring a guest in maybe?
Well, I'm not finished yet. Fucking,
Oh,
we're not.
okay, okay.
Yeah, damn right we're not, because I've not got to the source evidence yet.
Oh
I've not read
yes,
that out
yes,
loud.
TSO 7.
Yeah. So anyway, audience. So what we're trying to establish here is that the one of the reasons. Oh, so again, we've not got into all this as well. So how did this become standardised? So we've talked about Saint Nicholas. We've talked about all the other crap. Uh, it wasn't just 1931. You had this guy beginning the Christmas lore story. So that's Clement Clark Moore. What it is, it's remember, like I said, the Norman Knights influenced Holland considerably. 9 out of 10 people in Holland were sailors. Anybody living in the coast was a sailor. Now remember, like the Crusaders, Saint Nicholas would have been their patron. Now, fast forward, the colonies in America have started. All these Dutch people who have the patron saint of sailors as their guy, i.e., me, decide to obviously found New Amsterdam, which becomes New York City. So now, between New York and Pennsylvania, there's a massive group of German people who are very Christian and they worship Sinterklaas or Saint Nicholas, depending on what persuasion. He isn't Santa Claus yet. So what happens is these local. So remember, hat differently, but it would have been a bishop's hat, mixed in with various bits of Scandinavian lore. So one little bit. Do you remember the what's it called? Santa's like this now, audience, right? Santa's grotto. Where's that from? I'm going to ask Pomen on the spot. Where do you think the grotto comes from in a time frame? Do you
The
think
the grotto? What?
the grotto is this Scandinavian? Do you think? What do you think this is? The grotto. You know the Cave of Wonders. Hint.
I don't know what grotto
Do you not have
means.
that in your country? So in Europe, what they do is in America, you'd have a Santa's grotto, whereby it's a cave, and it usually
Grotto.
a department store or like at a
Ah,
hall or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, if I ask you, where's this from? Is this European or is this something else? No, it's Alibaba on his 40th. Aladdin, Genie. That's the time frame these legends were for. In the 1850s, the idea of what we think Santa coalesces. So the grotto is not Scandinavian, it's not Greco-Roman, boys and girls. It's not to do with Saturn. This is actually a Middle Eastern thing, and that's based upon like the Aladdin's cave. No, Cave
Mm.
Aladdin's, as fucking Iago used to say. Now the Christmas workshop, obviously,
Mhm.
right now the North Pole. It's true, audience. Check it up on. Santa's actually got an area code if you type it in. There is a massive production facility, manufacturing plant, bigger than the Ford Motor plant. It's that huge. Around the clock, elven enslavement to make sure your presents can get to you really, really quick. The process involved with all this is astronomical in scale, just to facilitate Christmas, and hopefully, like I say, Amazon's really helped as well. But it's call it now the sheer immensity of it all, of what Santa has to do. Like I say, only Saturn could do it. Like I say, bringing presents to everyone on Christmas. So the idea is the Christmas workshop with the elves. Remember, like I said, elves are Neolithic water and wood spirits. Now, what happened? There's something called the Hanseatic League,
Yeah.
whereby between London and Novgorod, there are a chain of mercantile commercial cities, whereby it's all set by guilds and a merchant class. One of the things they do, especially in the Baltic areas and German areas, because guess what? Germans, like I said, the ones pre-Christianization, they were wood worship, like grove worshippers and stuff. So you have these people in Scandinavia with these very, like let's say these older legends mixed in with the Hanseatic League workshop guild model, where you would have a local merchant person putting out a Christmas tree and or like a tree dedicated to the grove. Uh, over time, like I say, we would then think it's Santa's elves in his workshop. They would have been guild workers in the medieval period. And again, remember in the medieval period, if you are a Christian, which was more than likely because due to the feudal system, you couldn't really move around. The idea is that more than you'd think. So our modern, because we're not very Christian nowadays, we don't observe saints' days. If you look how many saints' days are on a calendar, it's like half a year is spent partying or getting drunk or eating food and stuff. So what would often happen is these guild halls, even though they're working their bollocks off every year, would put on at select saint days and especially St. Nicholas Day, or like we said, the Yule time day, uh, was it Christmas tree meal and entertainment and stuff, which becomes Santa's workshop. So again, Aladdin's Cave, that's from the 1850s. That's an American contamination where they've confused Alibaba's legends with the Santa story. The Santa's workshop and his elves is a medieval Hanseatic League thing, and like I say, it's got that good now that even NORAD follows him and stuff like that. Again, Saturn has changed through the ages from a Neolithic god to St. Nicholas to Odin, all the way to yours truly. So that's the idea. Now, on that note, have we got more questions? Basically, there must be more in the audience. More
No,
questions.
no, no more
Is it
questions.
like a morgue out there? I'll have to burn you alive or something like that, audience, in honor to the sun. Right, I'm going to read you a Christmas story now, audience. Remember, this is the source evidence that popularised my task. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap went out on the lawn, and there arose. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Mamma in a kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out of the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Okay, page 2. It's not a long story, audience. Away to the window I flew, open the sash, tore open the shutter and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. We forgot to mention that Odin Selfnir with his 8-legged horse, his flying horse, which then obviously becomes the 8 reindeer later on, like I said, the Wild Hunt. But a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. Plot thickens. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, Cupid, Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. Sounds like an enchantment, doesn't it, or something? It sounds probably a bit older than the text. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricanes fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turned around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed, now think audience, note the description it gives. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. And his beard on his chin was as white as the snow, and the stump of his pipe, hang on, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of the eye and a twist of the head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. Here we go, boys and girls, the plot's thickening. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his fingers aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney, he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere they drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. That's the
Oh,
baseline of the Santa Claus story. Now, before I sign off on this Santa Claus thing, back to source evidence about, because it's a question: how do I live forever? How? Because it's true, isn't it? It's the same Santa. It's not a different one. This mad myth, for instance. No, because it's true. Call up on your show prep elf, Olent Zero, or it's Basque. Can you not?
what?
OLENT or then zero. Olent
Wait,
Zero is a Basque.
say this all
Uh,
again. O
Right, so basically, I'm going to be discussing, as I'm talking about it, Pomen can pull it up. So
O
basically, I'm going to, yeah, so it's called Olent Zero.
E N.
OLENTZERO. So it's zero at the end.
What?
Because this is the bit of a riddle, Lord. I started on this subject. I said Saturn's a riddle. I'll tell you what, I'll just send it to you now, just for the show
Yeah.
prep purposes, so that because basically, audience, this is kind of one of these linchpins on this. We started on the Neolithic, we're going to end. One of the aspects is how does Santa Claus live forever? Now, I'm just going to send this to Pomen, Olent Zero, OLENTZEOR. Come on, boys and girls. Right. So I already know about this. It's just to confirm to you in the audience and everything. The idea is he is a Basque version of Father Christmas. Now, boys and girls, if you've heard about anything I've said, the Basque people are the Neolithic farmers, and these people haven't changed much. The Basques, they're the modern, you know what they're like? They're in the news every now and again, ETA and people like that. These people are extremely insular. So I'm just going to copy it, Pommon.
Yeah.
They are the oldest people in Europe. Likewise, there's stories about what, the details about Saturn. The Romans are good at throwing a party. They're good at some, but the details. How does Santa live forever? The logic is, hang on,
Where did
so
you
here we
send
go.
it to me?
Sending it now, hang on. Stream chat, there we go.
All right. There
So
we go.
remember when I've mentioned before as well previously that the old buildings are the work of the giants. We can kind of find the identity of the giants. They're the Basques, the Neolithic people in the lower.
It says Olan
Now in
Zero is a character in
Owen Zero, now
Basque
he
Christmas
now
tradition.
do you remember what I said? This is the bit I'd skip to the bottom and Luca about songs wrote about him. Do you remember when I said Saturn has a scythe and a hood? Look at and remember it's about being naughty and nice. Olent Zero has a dark side to him. He has a scythe and scares children from
Yes.
don't make him come down the chimney with his scythe.
Olan Zero has gone to the mountains to work with the intention of making charcoal. When he
Yeah.
heard that Jesus has been born, he came running to bring news. There
But
is.
there's two stories to him. So there's the
Oh, so
one
that's not.
whereby
That's it's another one you're thinking of.
no, no, you're right about what you're saying, but I'll explain it. So there's two stories to him. You've got the Christianization Olent Zero story, where an old man is told by the giants that Jesus is coming, and he says, I don't want to see this, throw me off the cliff.
Mm,
At that point, the giants fall down the cliff, but they're carrying him and they trip up and fall, and the old man's left and he gets to see it. So it's kind of he's begging for death, but he has to see Christianity emerge. Now, but that doesn't really explain how he lives forever. This is the best bit though. If you look through the story about the charcoal maker who used to make toys for children, have you read about that a bit in the show prep? One of the so there's a guy, a nice bloke. He's a charcoal maker and he makes little trinkets for kids and toys and
mm,
treats them. One day, imagine this in the Neolithic period, a house burning and the children inside are screaming. He runs in, saves the children, but burns alive.
mm,
At which point, there's an injustice there. The fairy, the nymph, the fairy, the divine being that found him originally, Olent Zero, and like give him his mission, thought it was so unjust that they had to bring him back to life because it makes no sense. Because obviously Saturn, obviously, is a god. Ha ha, he lives forever. Olent Zero is given is consigned to the fate of immortality for all our sakes, or
Mm.
for the hope that children can have a nice Christmas. So if you, it's really like I say, audience, if you're an anthropologist in this, we have to look at the oldest cultures that then give us like, well, what's this based upon? Like I say, Saturn, Orient Zero, and I think this guy's the source evidence could be classed as being late. However, it's an insular culture, and the fact that it does have that parallel with Saturn and his scythe. But I think that's a nice way of thinking because it's unexplainable. So how does Santa live forever? He gets burned alive in a house fire, saving some children, and the divine being that found him grants him immortality. So Santa is confined to immortality for all our sakes.
Mm.
Hence why I am Santa and Olent Zero, Saint Nicholas, Odin, the lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but this tale here is not very fun. Olin Zero. It says Olin Zero, big head, robbed in understanding, is said to have drunk last night a wineskin of 10 urobas. Oh,
Yeah, because
big
a giant would need a lot of
bellied
food
pig,
because he's a
tra la la
Neolithic
la
farmer.
la. Oh,
Yeah.
big bellied pig, tra la la la.
Yeah, so because the way he's remembered, it's a weird one. He's remembered as being a bit not the clever. He's not like Odin. He's not like wise. He didn't bring us the runes.
Mm.
Again, if you were uh, talking about a culture that's antithesis of yours, you'd call them shit. So in other words, like, oh, you bone-headed Neolithic farmer. Because remember, all they did were drink, and all they did were like party at Saturnalia. So and remember as well, one of the sacrifices for Saturn also, I think Olent Zero makes reference to this, a pig. That's one of the things that you have to do. And it sounds daft, obviously, some of religions would be offended by this, but one of the prerequisites for, again, you glazed ham at Christmas, you poor. Because again, it's like, why are we eating pig at Christmas specifically? And it's like, because that's an offer to Saturn, you know, think about it. So that's the idea. Again, we started off with what's the Etruscan god about, and it's the shortest Wikipedia extract, and it says this is a riddle even to modern people.
Mm.
And I've solved this. I've figured it all out, audience. So yeah, thank for me later and everything. But yeah, so I'm gonna get in my slate. I hope these elves have made sure that these parcels are fully weighted. I don't want that issue again. But yeah, how would you call it now? We've probably not gone into some aspects you were thinking of. You're thinking Godric's gone more on about Greco-Roman stuff than Odin. But if you think about it, how would you call it now? It is a later construction. It is clearly derived from the Germanic. It's that time when the Indo-Europeans have come in, and it requires the main god, the Neolithic god, to be brought. At least have two things, like I said, the naughty and the nice, the elf and the Krampus. The god and the devil, the good and the bad. Again, the duality of Christmas. This is one of the things because the season, it's a chaotic season. It's a time when it's cold. It's a time when if you haven't prepared right, you're all going to starve to death. So and remember, we all remember a golden age when it was a perpetual summer. No one did any work. Everything was provided, because that's what they described the Greeks and the Romans as their golden age, a time of plenty and never ending. But now our modern world has got this winter time. Well, lucky for you, Saturn goes through the Capricorn constellation on the 17th, and that luckily coincides when you're all off because peasants usually have a winter off until January when you have to get back out in fields. So, yeah, audience, I hope I've elucidated who I am. So, on that note, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what we do? Are we dragging some guests in?
Yeah,
Or
I'm just dragging Jess in here when she can join the chat, so I can drag her in. Santa can talk to at least another person as well. Maybe some American perspective, the Coca-Cola thing you can talk about just with, because you haven't talked so
I'd
much
like to hear
about
about is how you celebrate Christmas locally. So, we've not heard that off
ah,
you. When they come in, we'll do that. We'll discuss what Christmas is like for you. To be honest, audience, that's one of my traditions. That is literally what I do every Christmas. I love reading that. Which sounds a bit sad, but that's literally like how I'd celebrate my Christmas time. As long as I've read that, it's all good.
now you got to read it. It's nice.
Because I'm a stickler for source information like that. It's like King Arthur and stuff like that. Like I don't even call him that. It's Ambrosius Aurelianus, and I refer to Gildas, Saint Gildas if I'm looking at source information, not this bloody. What is it now? Oh, who is it now? There's a couple of them. Bede and another one. Geoffrey Monmouth. That's the bastard. Yeah.
Hello, Jess.
Hello, hello. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Early Merry
Christmas,
Christmas.
yes, ho ho ho, and all that.
Been enjoying the stream so far. Just relaxing, looking at some stuff, playing a video game, enjoying Christmas cheer. The Cabal, which is the usual Discord group I hang out in, they've been watching Christmas movies all day, so it's been a delightfully chill day today.
It's nice.
Comfy Christmas live stream.
Yeah. And there's a lot of history. I hope Rick have taught you something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I learn something every time I listen to anything on your channel, Poman.
That's good.
Oh, at the very least, play it back and keep a notepad out because we go over a lot of topics tonight. Yeah.
A lot.
As far as the Coke and Pepsi question, um, in the South, Coca Cola is more popular. I don't really like dark soda, but if I had to choose, I would probably choose a Pepsi to drink, but I don't really like either one of them.
It tastes shit, Pepsi. It literally does, man. And I'm not shilling for Coca Cola. I know that they like sponsor, like the outfit is by, edict of the Coca Cola company. But yeah, I still like cola more. Yeah. It's more of a natural flavour. It goes back. Pepsi's new. That's at least the cola. It was made from like coca leaves, wasn't it, and stuff like that. Give a bit of bang to your buck. Yeah.
Nah, but I mean, it's also yeah, I don't like Pepsi, but the South loves Coke. They always had like that's their
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and I think the Coca-Cola head office and primary plant is in Atlanta, Georgia, which is like the heart of the South.
Yeah, just stupid that. Yeah, I mean, I the issue with Coke I have or any soft drink, it's so addictive,
Yeah, and
incredibly
also it
addictive.
makes me feel sick if I drink much of it.
Oh yeah,
Why do you think I turned into a fat bastard? Santa used to be thin at one point until he started drinking cola. Yo, fucking. No, purposely got a fat suit and well, supposedly audience, you have to say. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I
it's the
mean,
perspective of this bastard camera. Fucking.
no, it's good.
Fucking hell, I asked them to shut my studio up and they fucked it up again.
Nah, it's
Fucking
all
shit.
fine. It's all fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm more worried about my battery. So I set up. This is my actual. It's a very fancy camera. I have set up. I it shows, I guess, but I'm not sure how much it shows. The issue is I have Windows 7 on my normal computer. That camera does not connect to Windows 7.
Where are we seeing you then? Is this magic or some shit?
No, but this is a laptop. But the thing is, uh, I have to use battery immediately when I plug in the energy. Fans goes wild, so I can't use it.
Oh,
And I'm seeing the batteries running out on all the things. So I ask Santa for a new battery. That's not the issue. The issue it's not battery. It's just the fans on this computer is very loud. I'll be fine. I just wanted to try with the new camera. Again, having a fancy camera look at you is it's always different.
Yeah.
well, if I had a camera on this computer, I would join you on camera, but I don't.
So fine.
I'd have to go across the hall and get it from my work computer, and I'd rather just leave it plugged in over there.
So Jess, I wonder when it comes to Christmas Eve,
Uh-huh.
what do you eat? What's on the table?
Yeah.
Oh, here for Christmas dinner, we tend to make a bigger deal of eating on Thanksgiving since Thanksgiving's a big American holiday. So
Mm.
on Christmas, we usually do something small. This year I just got a smoked ham, and we're gonna have shaved ham and cornbread,
A
and red
sacrifice
bread.
to Saturn. Good on you, yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
keeping the
Keep it
European
traditional.
sentimental your keep
Yeah.
the traditional European roots going. Yeah.
With corn,
Because
it's
in England we always have turkey at Christmas, you see, but you guys have already done the Thanksgiving turkey run, haven't you? So it's usually a
Yeah.
glazed ham into it or some shit.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we like here. We love pork. I live in the South, and there's lots of pig farms around here. We love pork, and so we like to do a nice big smoked ham and a buttered cornbread to go with that.
mm.
It's pretty delicious.
So over here, because over here, because we don't have a Thanksgiving in the UK, obviously Father Christmas, ho ho ho. Over here, we don't have a Thanksgiving. We only celebrate Christmas, so we actually have a turkey at Christmas time. Is our
Oh,
logic?
okay.
Yeah. So like, if you have a glazed ham, you'd be like, "You fucking weirdo! What have you got ham for?" You know what I mean? You should have a turkey. But
Oh, okay.
but that just shows you there cross contamination. So in my culture, is Father Christmas. He doesn't dress like this. He dresses like as more of a rural Saturn character. Again, we imported a lot. Again, the stocking. I forgot to mention that. If Saint Nicholas, he used to say, leave a shoe out, and obviously because he helped the prostitutes out with the dowry, you have a
Right.
shoe and you put and again a shoe's tiny, so you can't fit much in it. But what do Americans do is at Christmas time? You don't have a shoe, do you? You have a
No,
stocking.
they hang up a big sock, a big
Yeah,
sock. Yeah.
and you
Right.
can fit more in a sock. And it even said it implies like you expect more because what you're gonna do, like have a big fucking stocking and nothing in it, so you look like a right cheap ass. So in England, so in Europe and England, like it used to be a little shoe, and you could be a cheap ass. You'd be like, yeah, that fits in like an orange, a candy bar, and maybe a small toy or something like a car or something. But a big stocking you can fit. And again, that's an American contamination with the Christmas story. But yeah,
Yeah.
Santa fact checking Christmas in real time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you guys celebrate it then? What's the crack? Do you have a Christmas tree or not? Things like that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we have lots of decorations. We decorate the entirety of the inside of the house. We have things on the banister. We have all different kinds of little towels and placemats. We
Now,
hang up lots of lights. And here, since I'm from Appalachia, we have big families here. And one of the traditions is ever since you're a little kid, people make ornaments to hang on the Christmas tree together. So everyone's Christmas tree has little ornaments that other
Or
people have made.
personalized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so everybody's tree has ornaments that the other families in your family clan have made. So on our Christmas tree, we have little things that uh, probably 15 to 20 people of my family clan have made, and little painted Santas when we were kids, hollowed out decorated eggs with the nativity scenes that we made with wax when we were young, and you just sort of keep those as keepsakes. So even though decorating for Christmas in itself is kind of a materialist modern thing, we put more wholesome family connection depth into it here. So
Because that sounds
you
like
know,
Saturn early, because they used to make like wax figurines for each other to like denote
yeah,
friendship and stuff. Like
yeah, that's
something
for
that either has no value, like say little thing like something painted, like and what, but to someone it has immense value, doesn't it? Yeah.
hmm.
And
And
how do you celebrate in that in your neck of the woods, Common?
I was more thinking, what do you usually give each other as gifts?
Oh yeah.
what do we give as gifts?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
Oh, just regular stuff: clothes, video games, new guns, ammo, that kind of thing.
Just regular things.
Yeah, I mean, we do too, but we also have like candies and stuff like that. We also give out Christmas
Yeah,
candies.
well, yeah, that's pretty common here too. But our family, like we don't really do candy much, so we just give clothing is pretty common. Getting somebody a new pair of shoes, helping
Yeah,
somebody get a new coat, getting somebody a little piece of cheap jewelry, that kind of thing.
yeah.
It's and ammunition is a pretty popular gift these days because ammo is so expensive here.
Best snack from Christmas time is biscuit sausage. Never heard of biscuit sausage.
I don't know what
What,
biscuit
like a
sausage
biscuit with a
is.
sausage on it.
I have no idea. It's biscuit sausage. I've never heard of that before.
At least it's still pork though. At least yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, when
God,
it
how
comes,
wayward, how wayward is us Brits though doing it with turkey though? That's crazy as shit. That in it instead of being traditional with pork. Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to our food, we have a lot of mix of many things. Like a common Swedish thing that I didn't have as a child because we're Danes, uh, were ham. Just a big slice of ham. Like a
Ham
big.
is delicious. I love ham.
I don't like ham. So, but I never grew up with ham. So, and then we have another one which calls Janssons frestelse, which is potato cream. Or it's potato, um, so sliced potato with a lot of cream in it, and then fish, and it's
Oh,
awful.
that sounds good.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not good?
No, it's not.
I like fish though.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's not good.
Eh, Oh, okay.
Then we have a lot of pickled herring. We usually have like very concentrated beef So like, I don't know what I'd call it. Beef sausage and blood sausage, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I've had those before.
Blood pudding. Yeah.
Not pudding. It says no, I think it's cookie batter sausage. No idea.
That's just fucking alien to me, man. That sounds very fucking weird. No offense, like out there to the audience, but
Yeah,
fucking hell, biscuit sausage. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I
what
know
is
it.
that?
No
What the
idea.
hell is the shit?
Otherwise we have. I should have brought some stuff with me here to drink. We have an
Mad
alcoholic.
bastard, you're not drinking. You got any alcohol?
No, I'm not drinking.
Oh, but how are we supposed to toast the fucking Yule festival? Because there's
Can't.
order to this shit. You have to get your beer and there's like a structure to it. Or I actually had it written down here and everything.
No, we
I've got
have
short The fuck?
warm wine. Usually we drink called
Mold wine. Yeah,
warm
mold wine is it?
warm wine.
Yeah, we'd call that mold wine over here.
Oh,
It's like spiced wine that's warmed up.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
We call it glögg, which is very
yeah.
common. And yeah, everybody has that. I'm not a big fan of glögg personally. What else do we have? Uh, well, eggs and stuff like that. Normally, a lot of cold, like warm food has been cold, like sausages, meatballs, things like that. It's okay. Like I'm not a big woo about Christmas dinner because the point with Christmas dinner is to make a lot and then eat a lot, but I don't usually eat that much. It's nothing that wows me in the dishes.
I hear you. I hear you. For
Then again,
me,
it's a meal designed for like a bigger group, though, isn't it? It's not supposed to be
Yeah.
like a meal for one, is it? Or something. It's supposed
No,
to be
it's a
like
meal
like
for
a big
family.
hog on the table with an apple in its mouth or something. It's like that's
Yeah,
clearly not for one, is it? Otherwise, you're a fat bastard.
for
Yeah.
yeah,
me, for me, Christmas is just about visiting people and celebrating love and family and
precisely.
Jesus and that kind of thing.
For the Swedes, it's about I think it's 4 o'clock. We watch Donald Duck, Donald Duck's Christmas, which has become a thing here, which is just Disney controlling it. Uh, every year we do that. It was one time they moved it up like 15 minutes, and it became like a big riot about that. So you don't do that. Then there's some other small shows, uh, but that's the most important one. You're not allowed to miss that.
Mm.
So what you usually do, we have the cold food before Donald Duck's Christmas, and then during it, or a little bit afterwards, we bring in the warm food. So it's the pause in between the food. Don't know why it became a thing. It just has become a thing. And then a lot of
Well,
candy.
speaking of food, we're gonna have dinner here in about 20 minutes, so I don't have much longer. Is there
Yeah, my
anything in
battery doesn't
particular
have
you
much longer either, so it's fine.
Oh, anything you want to talk to me about before I head out for another dinner here?
No, uh, so you guys only celebrate on the 25th, right? You guys don't do anything on 24th or
No, we do 24th and 25th here.
ah.
Midnight mass. Do you do that? Yes, right, like that.
Do a midnight what?
It's midnight mass where you go to church and it's like
No,
you know,
we're
the
not
20,
Catholic here.
24th.
We're all
Yeah.
Protestant here.
But what do you do on the 24th then?
On the
Yeah, if you're a
24th,
Protestant, what do you do? Yeah.
on the 24th, what we do is after dinner, usually the head of the household or the eldest, if it's a woman, either a father, a grandfather, or a mother or grandmother, usually will open up the Bible to their favorite gospel, and we'll talk about the story of Jesus, and
Hmm.
everybody shares what Jesus has meant to them during the year. And we just have a religious mixed with family time on the 24th because the reason for the season is the birth of Jesus. So we
Right, then
talk
we're going to
about that.
test your Bible knowledge, Yes. Here we go then. So, which gospel describes Jesus' birth? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Come on, you got a
I'm,
choice of four.
I'm not a
Well,
Bible scholar.
Luke,
I don't know.
Gospel Luke is where you hear about his
Yes.
birth. That involves the shepherds, right?
I,
The issue is, I'm going to ask you, how many kings were there? How many kings were there?
what
No,
do you mean kings? What are you
yeah,
talking?
do you
How
remember
many
it?
wise
The
men?
nativity scene? Come on, how many kings are there?
If you're talking about the wise men from afar, those are three. There are three.
No, no, there were three gifts. Doesn't tell you how many people there are. Screwed up on that one. There could have been 30,000. There
All right,
were.
I've had enough of this. Okay, I'm tired. I don't like
Sorry,
this
I'm
behavior.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Lost the Bible question on fucking.
I'm sorry, just that was just that's funny in a way. It's funny in a way. Uh, I'm
I didn't mean scare off, but clearly you don't know your nativity scene. You can't call it,
I don't know.
See, I'm Neolithic Saturn, and I know more about Christian than these fucking Christianity that people do. Fucking hell.
Oh, she left. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because she screwed up on the fucking Bible questions. Fuck me, I've made it's all been about heathenry and everything. Ask a Christian about Bible stuff. I can't do that.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Jess. I'm sorry.
yeah. Gospel Luke's were about the birth. Gospel Matthew's about him getting the gifts. He's probably at the age of 2 by that point because it has to be after the sequence of
I
the
mean, I
star
mean, you
coin.
have to also remember that a lot of the scenes around Christmas, Jesus' birth, is made after the fact. It's not a biblical story.
But again, I mean, even though, let's say we're taking the books on face value, though, 'cause people always mistake the nativity scene. Every nativity scene has shepherds there and three wise men. Wrong. Jesus, when the kings arrived, he was probably 2 year old. He was probably a toddler. He probably sat on the knee or something. Bit like Christmas, Santa Claus.
She took high offense to that. All right, sorry, Jess. She says I didn't think that was funny. I don't know shit about Bible stuff. I fucking said that. I was sharing with my family what I do. Screw this guy.
Christian clearly doesn't know about Bible
All
stories,
right, all
so
right.
fucking one for me on that one.
Let's get away from that one. All right, goodbye, Jess.
But it's funny, all that we spend up with that. It's supposed to be a Protestant doing all this Christian stuff, and then they can't answer me about what the nativity scene entails. How many three wise men?
I mean, like when it comes to,
Well,
I don't.
is the audience biblical literate enough? Because even though I'm Saturn, you're Neolithic God and all that. I mean, I've read the Bible inside and out. It's Christmas for God's sake. You need to know a lot of show prep.
Says I'm not even a Christian, you asshole. But you won't let me talk.
No, you said you were a Protestant. You said you weren't a Catholic.
Can we move away from this now? It's
We
not.
can do if you want, but it
Yes,
explains where the guest has gone.
let's move away. Yes, this is Santa's naughty. It's Krampus all along.
Yeah, well, I told you it's the duality of Saturn, isn't it?
Alright. Um, yeah, that can happen. Yeah. But yeah, the stories or whatever.
Yeah. So apart from boring half of the audience away and scaring the only guest we've got, then is there more to do?
Not much more to do. No.
Right. So I'm going to continue this on my phone actually, and
Merry
while
Christmas,
Santa
yes.
while
Merry
Santa
Christmas.
has a pipe. I'm still going to be on air and everything. I'll just be having a pipe. I think
Merry Christmas, yes.
it's true though. If you don't know what a nativity scene is,
Enough,
it's
enough,
simple,
enough, enough,
basic
enough,
stuff that
enough, enough,
Christianity just
enough,
eludes
enough.
people. Fucking
Oh,
sorry, audience. Saturn seems
all
to be
right.
more Christian
My
than people.
battery's dying. My battery just died on my
We're
camera.
roboting now, audience, on the camera. Get your phone out then. You can do it that way.
No, I'm not gonna get my phone up. My it's gonna be black screen now. My camera just died, so it might been something happened. Everything dies at once.
Seriously, man, technical issues here at was it now North Pole HQ? It seems. Fucking hell.
It seems, yes.
Mail's fucking up. It says
Anyway,
OES webcam utility. What sort of shoddy shit is this, man?
let's quit at this point.
Yeah. Well, anyway, audience, before we sign off, remember at Yuletide. So the first one is to Odin. The next one's to the king. And the next one's to the dead. So there we go. Happy Yuletide, or Saturnalia, or Christmas. Yo.
Merry Christmas, everybody. All right,
See you later.
and goodbye.